It's always cute to hear that. So what I want to talk about today, broke it down into like 3 main categories. The focus is on self-worth and why so many people have such low self-worth and how it's destructive. So we're going to go through 3 things here. Hi, A-Cow. I'm going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence, why we even have emotions, why do they matter, why did we evolve this way to feel them? They're very inconvenient. So that's one. We're going to talk a little bit about how emotional intelligence is taught and often taught very badly. And then I'm going to get to the part that will probably bother some people a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit about capitalism's effect on our emotion, our emotional life, and our sense of self. Yes, Weasel. Yes, welcome to the psychiatric examines. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just a lady with some opinions and a lot of feelings. Why did I evolve this way, right? Having big feelings hurts, and like, what's up with humans? Why are we like this? So yeah, I've been sitting in front of my computer for monkeys with anxiety. Yeah. I've been sitting in front of my computer for a long time now. I'm just like, all right, how do I get started with this? And Whitwix came in and was like, you about to stream? And you just saw me sitting here like with OBS open and everything. Yeah. We're gonna talk about anxiety and depression. I don't think I can talk about anything without bringing it back a little bit to depression, but there are reasons why we have to get sad, So anyway, as I was sitting here trying to, just think about how to get started and like make sure I don't leave anything out. My boyfriend came in, asked what I'm going to talk about, and you can already tell, like, I have a hard time even like saying like, this is what it's going to be about, because it's about a lot of things. But when he asked me, I was like, it's going to be about emotional intelligence. And he was like, that seems like an oxymoron. And I was like, yeah, actually, that's part of what I want to talk about. So maybe I'll just start with that. This idea that emotions are the opposite of, the opposite of intelligence, or that emotions are like, the opposite of reason. Which is, it's not the case, Sometimes your emotions can make you, they can make you act irrationally, maybe, if they're too strong, if they spur you too strongly to action before you've had time to really think about it. But emotions are just a type of intelligence. They are a type of, it's just information. Emotions are information. The same way that pain, physical pain, is information. You touch a hot stove, it hurts. When you have emotional pain and something hurts, it's the same thing. Your body is telling you something. It's telling you if something is wrong, and and whether you need to do something to fix it. Hi, Nazcan. So to say that emotions are irrational, you know, it would be like saying that sound is irrational, or any of the other ways that we collect information. Hello to Super Lisa, who can't hear me right now. Emotions are not opposed to reason. They're something that informs our reason, give meaning to it. Just pure logic with no emotion attached is okay for, you know, mathematics. There are some things that can be totally separated from emotion, but most human experience can't be, and you shouldn't want it to be. But we are conditioned to think and fear that when we show emotion, we are going to be perceived as weak or irrational. And especially for men, there's extra pressure not to appear childish or feminine. And emotions are definitely culturally tied to femininity and seen as opposed to masculinity. No, you. Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, pirate? I'm hoping I'll loosen up a little bit. I'm still a little nervous. So yeah, you hear things, man up. Don't be a baby. There are so many ways that we are told directly and indirectly throughout our lives that the things that touch us deeply are not to be discussed. Save it for therapy. The things that touch us deeply are embarrassing. Things that you should be ashamed about. The things that touch us really deeply are not appropriate to discuss or share. And when you internalize that, when you're told over and over again that the things you feel deeply about aren't okay, the result is you try not to feel so deeply about things anymore. And I mean, that can be about anything. Most people probably have some experience with being made fun of for being too passionate about their interests. Crying when someone does something cruel to you, and people telling you, making fun of your tears. Nazcan, what if the distinction wasn't that you shouldn't feel the emotions, rather that you shouldn't let the emotion control your reason and thinking? Yes, that's true. You can have you can take the wrong action in response to an emotion, and you can use your reason to come to the wrong conclusions based on emotions that you felt.
Lots of love.
But you can't not feel the emotion, you know? You can be wrong about how you act. You can be wrong about logical conclusions. You cannot be wrong about how you feel. How you feel is just it's a part of who you are. It's your real experience. And it's immediate. The same way that you immediately pull back from something hot, an emotional stimulus is an automatic thing that you cannot immediately control. Dem guns? What, these things? Functopus, thank you so much for resubscribing. Welcome back. Happy 2-month anniversary. Oh, and Leda finally updated on the bits. Thanks. Wondering if you're going to bring up incels. I did not have incels on my mind, but that's definitely related to the direction that this is going. Thinking about the ways that, you know, what happens between someone being born sweet and innocent and then developing to be someone capable of self-hatred, hatred for others, abuse, violence, mass shootings. What goes wrong? Just a lot. A lot can go wrong. But yeah, I do. Obviously, this resonates with me because I can relate to, you know, pressure to repress my emotions. But I do think that it's especially hard for men to be able to find ways to express their emotions or to have them taken seriously. And, you know, a world that teaches men not to feel is going to be horrified by the consequences of men who do not feel. And that's the deep damage that emotional repression does, is that it erodes your ability to care about anything. I'm not sure if I already said this, but emotions they're important for many reasons. One being, hi Tybucks, simply that they're a part of you. Your experience is important because you're important. The way that you feel is important because you are a person and you're important. And emotions are not this irrational thing that you need to get rid of. They have important biological functions. You have feelings. Feelings are information from your body telling you whether your needs are being met, whether there's something wrong either with your health or with your environment, with your relationships to other people. It is your body's way of telling you whether you need to change something. It's a negative feedback loop. It's, does something need to change? Yes or no? You're welcome, Instagram. Instagram's witty. We were talking about you yesterday because I have someone on my Snapchat called Fieldy's bitch. And I was like, you want to see these messages? And Witwix was like, I never open any messages from someone who has Witwix in their name, except Instagram/Wittywix. That guy's cool. But yes, emotions they're important. They're not irrational. They can lead to irrational beliefs, but the feelings themselves just are. That's just you. Those are your feelings, are facts about you. So strong emotions that don't have outlets, when you feel things and are made to feel that those feelings are unimportant, when you're made to feel like you shouldn't care about something that is part of who you are, it's very self-erasing, and it erodes your self-esteem, it erodes your sense of self, it erodes your ability to connect with other people, it erodes your ability to to see the full purpose and meaning in your life. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And just labeling emotions is like that's emotional intelligence 101. The very first thing, when you feel something, when you feel bad, before you worry about why do I feel this way, what's wrong with me, just what is it? What is the feeling? Give it a name. Angry or sad, whatever. Identify it, and then you can start the work of looking at what might be wrong that's making you feel that way. Eroding emotion erodes empathy. Yes. And I don't know if I don't want this to just sound like hippie bullshit or whatever, but that lack of empathy is the heart of so much of what is wrong with every part of what's wrong in the world. Just the violence and cruelty are not inevitabilities of human nature. They come from this crisis of people not knowing their own value and worth as people. And once you get to the point of believing that you are not valuable or important, the next logical step is to believe that other people are not valuable or important. Isn't labeling emotions an objective action that is taking a step away from the emotion itself and more analyzing the physical response? I mean, language really shapes the way we're able to process things. Like feeling sad and calling it sadness is similar to seeing a butt and calling it a butt. It's just a matter of recognition. But people learn to be so upset by the fact that they feel emotions that they will try very hard to deny the emotions that they have. People who are depressed will say, I'm not depressed. I have no reason to be depressed. I'm not. And they don't get anywhere with that, because when you're denying that you have pain, then you are not able to do anything to act on fixing it. So that's part one of what emotions are, why they matter, why it's damaging to try to crush them. Yeah. So I'm going to get into, I want to look at the gap, of emotional person who becomes something that is kind of unrecognizable to us. Like when we see someone go out and commit a mass murder, we're like, that's inhuman. That's not a person. Like what is that? Because I do believe that I mean, I can't say this like 100% and in all cases, but for the majority of humans, I think that self-love and love for others is an inherent quality, and there's something that happens along the way that beats that knowledge out of you and makes us forget. Awesome, Instagram. I'm happy to help. Oh, and in Nazcan, I was reading your replies to my tweet, like right when I went live, but I was live, so I didn't have time to think of a response or anything yet. I might take a look at them on stream when I'm done. Let's talk about it a little more. You tend to deal with emotions in a systematic way. It's either something you can change, something you can't. You work toward accepting it. If you can, yeah, I mean, that seems healthy. He will, Zero. He's working on it. Yeah. And yeah, I'm going to talk about this, like, a little bit about how we learn to cope with the emotions that we have in healthy and unhealthy ways. I do believe that cruelty is a learned defense against lovelessness, not something that we're born necessarily wanting or knowing how to do to inflict pain on other people. The reason I think this is you don't have to teach a child that they are important. You don't have to teach a little boy that his needs matter. They know this. A baby knows this. Children have no problem expressing themselves when they're sad or angry, or when they need something, they will let you know. They cherish the people, you know, mom, dad, if they have siblings. That love, self-love, and love for others is like just like the basic. I feel like that's like what being human is feeling that love for yourself and the people around you. And then of course, you know, power struggles start. Child might get mom. You might get mad at mom or dad for not giving you what you want, but hopefully you have like loving parents who you know, help you understand that just like what you are wanting is important, that, you know, mom and dad are important too. And so you don't always get what you want immediately, but kids understand this. Children, I think most people would agree children are precious. They wouldn't all agree that adults are precious. And it's a strange thing. A few months ago, my brother's wife was away for the night, and he came over with my niece, who's a little over a year old, and I had a really hard time getting her to go to sleep. And I was helping my brother get her to sleep. And we were all lying down in a bed. It was me and my brother with the baby between us. And the lights were off and I was singing to her. And it was a very intimate moment, being in a bed, lights off, singing softly with my adult brother in the room. And I felt really uncomfortable. Like I wanted to ask him to leave, you know, because like it was too vulnerable, of that very sweet moment of like singing to a child. And it brought you got everyone's sweating. I'm not saying go cuddle with your adult siblings, but it did, it was bringing back very distant memories of being very little and having like the women in my family sing to me, and like that feeling of like preciousness, you know, like when you are little like that, you know how precious you are to those people. And I can kind of remember being a little kid with my brothers, and then it was normal to like hug and cuddle, maybe sing to each other.
I'm the oldest.
Thank you for the bits. Hello, oldest. But yeah, just those memories of like very innocent tenderness were jarring next to the discomfort of like, I don't want you to see me singing to a baby, you know? And it just made me think a lot about how precious children are to us, and how we start to see them as less and less valuable as they get older. And they feel that. And there are so many things that happen along the way within a person and, you know, externally as you get older and become less protected, and you start to see how you know, your feelings and your innocence aren't really something that matters to anybody. Hello, DRM. I'm a little lost on this train of thought, but it was just something I thought about. Just what happens between, you know, that very precious person and then, you know, the adult that they grow up to be. And why do they become seen as less valuable? Less valuable or less vulnerable? Well, I'm talking about value. Obviously, you'll become less vulnerable, as you should. You have to be able to be self-sufficient and protect yourself. That's part of growing up. But the value that a person has doesn't change just because they've become more self-sufficient. I guess I just wish that we were better able to apply that understanding and care to the adults that children grow up to be. And yeah, like I said, I'm not saying there shouldn't be boundaries between people. You should, you know, things just change, and it's interesting. We're talking about emotions, though. I just spilled coffee all over myself. Sorry, I know I'm being a little slow getting to the point. the next point. So when you're a kid, it's going to become necessary to manage your emotions. And that's going to be the first thing that people start teaching you. And the way that we teach kids to deal with their emotions is important and often done incorrectly or done poorly. They're going to go to school. They're going to act out when they feel anger. You know, at first they hit, they might yell. We have to teach them self-control. But we often don't teach them what to do instead the way that we should. I worked at a school where and one day I was in my boss's office crying on my lunch break about power struggles I was having. And I was very lucky to work somewhere where I could do that. You know, most people can't just cry to their boss. It would seem inappropriate, but it was a good workplace where I felt like everyone had my back. We all wanted to work together and have the same goals. So she was trying to help me, and she was saying that there's two ways that we teach. We teach by teaching, and we teach by correcting. Correcting is a form of discipline that discourages the behavior you don't want to see anymore. Teaching by teaching is where you teach what should happen. You show kids what is good, the correct thing to do. Teaching kids how to control their emotions is very difficult. You have to show them the value of having respect for themselves and respect for others, and it takes a lot of time. Teaching by correcting is instantaneous. A kid acts out, you dissuade them from doing it again. Discipline doesn't necessarily mean punishment, but for most parents, I think, for a lot of parents and a lot of teachers, punishment is that snap reaction. Hello, wee man. And they're going to grow up in environments that are very punishing when they do express emotions in ways that are deemed incorrect, especially if they haven't been shown how to do it correctly. They are only going to be punished for showing emotion, and not just by parents and teachers, by their peers who will belittle them. And it's tough out there. I'm going to give a little example of this. Like, think about a young kid in school, and they, it's a peaceful moment in the classroom, and suddenly one of the kids screams or yells and hits another kid. There's different ways that an adult can handle that. You can bring them over and talk to them, say what's going on. They have probably experienced some injustice in their mind. They definitely have. Maybe he took the pencil I was using and I wanted it back. The first step to helping helping them process that emotion is confirming what the feeling was and that the feeling was okay. You know, it's not okay for someone to take your things away from you, and that is frustrating, and that makes you mad. The next step is giving them an understanding of why that's not okay. Because, you know, this classroom is important, your friends are important, our work is important here. They had to stop what they were doing because they were scared of your reaction. It was distracting, and our focus is important. And having an understanding of why lashing out like that isn't okay involves helping them understand that they're important, that we wouldn't let other people treat them that way, that we try to prevent it, and that the people around them are important too. And then you have to teach them what they should do instead. Did you ask for it back? Did you tell him it's not okay to take my things? So that's one way to handle it, which takes a lot of time and patience and consistency. Another way someone might handle it is a kid feels an injustice, they act out, they yell or hit, and the response is, "That's bad, and you are in big trouble." That doesn't teach anything. That they don't understand the emotion that they felt. They don't understand why it wasn't okay to respond. What they understand is what they internalize is these feelings of not being understood. Everyone has this. I think every single person they will remember at least one instance of injustice by a teacher or an adult where they had a good reason to feel an emotion and were cut down for it. And then they're just kind of left to figure that out on their own. Like, so then it's okay. Does that mean it's okay for people to mess with me? Is it okay when if it's not okay for me to get upset, then it must be okay for people to do things that don't seem fair to me. And that, I think, is where kids start to diverge into healthy behaviors and defensive behaviors that lead to cruelty. So of course, learning self-control, learning the right ways to respond to big emotions is important. But a lot of the time, people are just going to be treated as if the emotions themselves are wrong. And they're going to be punished relentlessly for what they're going to interpret as feeling, because they don't understand how they should react instead. And then as they get older, it's not just behaving in a classroom setting of, waiting your turn to talk and things like this. It's going to be, are your passions acceptable? Especially for boys, you can't be too interested in certain things. Your passions are allowed to be directed towards increasingly narrow outlets. What are you allowed to be emotional about as a man? Sports, sex, attaining money. You're not supposed to I don't know, it's hard to think of any very common outlets for men to feel passionately. That makes sense, Functopus. Oh my, I'm sorry I called you Fucktopus. I didn't mean it. Guys are not allowed to wear skirts. Part of why I've been thinking about this so much is the story from last week of the boy who committed suicide 4 days after starting 4th grade. Because he went to school, he came out as gay to his classmates and was relentlessly bullied. And when you feel something and people tell you that it's not okay to feel that way, what you internalize is that you're not okay. There's something wrong with you. For some kids, that becomes an inner thing where they don't really get past the point of that feeling of worthlessness. And in some cases, they don't survive that feeling of worthlessness. In other cases, they do, but they go forward projecting it onto others. I think there's a progression where when you're born, you're important. Your feelings are important. You start learning how to control them better. You might start to feel that you're definitely going to feel, you're going to learn that while your feelings are important to you, they're not always important to other people. And if you're not taught healthy ways to deal with it, you're going to start to feel like you're not very important, but other people still feel important. It's just you that there's something wrong with. And if that goes on, I think most people who feel worthless will start to cope with that by rationalizing that other people are worthless too. If I don't have value and people don't need to treat me with kindness, I don't need to treat other people with kindness either. I think that's behind a lot of kid and adult culture. The fuck your feelings, special snowflake, bullying about gayness and feminine behavior. If you don't feel that you're deserving or worthy of love, no one else is going to feel that way either. Why do we as people have to accept the word of others over our own judgment? If someone tells me I'm wrong about something I feel is right, I won't make me feel wrong. Yeah, and it's good. it's good to learn that. And the earlier we can teach that to people, the better. Is that just because you have evidence, whether it's imaginary or real, that other people don't value you, doesn't mean that you aren't valuable. It doesn't mean you can't value yourself. Hey, thanks, Dens. Glad you like it. I'm 27 years old and really just starting to have that really solidify. Having high self-esteem is a pretty new development in my life as I become more confident in what my values are and judging my behavior on the things that are important to me instead of on the things that I think are important to other people. Thank you, Sky Blue and Black. Appreciate you. That was a big breakthrough for me. That the things that are important to me aren't important to everybody, and I do not need to be concerned with the judgments of people who really just don't align with me and what I feel is important. The people who dislike me or whatever are judging me by, you know, just metrics that don't really mean that much to me. So it doesn't need to be, I don't know, you don't need to take it to heart. Have anything written down, anything else written down, but all right, this is the part where I might lose people. Neat mug. Yeah, thanks. I just can't resist a good butt mug. You can't see that one, it's got butts. Like a nice butt mug. So society. The problem of self-value and emotional intelligence for everyone, but especially for boys, is both a top-down and bottom-up problem. That means it's problems that spring from the small to the big, from the individual to the more general. The way you're treated by your family, the way you're treated in school, the way that you're treated within society. It's not all one or the other. It's a little bit of everything. And I think there is a cultural problem that stems from capitalism. And this isn't an argument that, it's not an argument about capitalism as an economic system. It's a problem that our economic system has replaced all other systems. Our economic system is becoming our moral system. It's becoming it's, you know, replacing our democratic system. You can buy government positions. Like, money has so much more power than what was intended with the democratic process. We start to see everything through the lens of material value. And I think you can tell a lot about how much your economic system has become a place for your moral system based on how much the following statement resonates with you or upsets you. All people are inherently valuable, and there is nothing that they can do to make themselves more or less valuable as people. Value is an inherent quality of a human being. That means a person can't make themselves more valuable by attaining wealth. They can't become more valuable by sleeping with lots of women or by having power over other people. A homeless man does not have any more or less value as a person experiencing the world than Donald Trump, not more or less deserving of basic dignity and respect. I don't think that the majority of people would be able. I don't think the majority of adults believe that's true about themselves, that they're valuable because they just are. You learn that you are valuable for what you do, what you can provide, and that you have to work very hard to become someone who is worthy of respect, and to become worthy of someone whose feelings are treated as if they matter. And that's not a natural conclusion to come to. It's not something you're born thinking when you're born. You don't have questions of whether or not you're valuable. Of course you are. And of course the people around you are also valuable. But yeah, we don't really have ways of measuring it's as you become an adult, money is the measure of everything. Whether you can go to school and learn, whether you can go to a doctor when you're sick, whether you can eat, whether you can wear nice clothes, whether people are going to treat you kindly or give you dirty looks. There's a big push against social programs. A lot of Americans don't feel like we need them because capitalism is our social program and how people get access to care. Our schools are designed to prepare you to create capital. They don't teach you about, the importance of humanity. They don't teach you about, passion and meaning and purpose, or any of the things that are really important to people. And you don't need feelings to produce, to do labor. It doesn't matter what you feel in that sense. You're going to learn how to do it. When your parents talk to you about the future, they want to know, how are you going to make money and rise above other people? Every single thing that we do and that we're taught is about, our numbers. So of course we start to feel that our value is an external thing. Everything, there's so many like legitimate issues that people have that are viewed through the lens of, well, what does this mean for, production?
All right.
Jesus. Shauna, thank you so much for subscribing. Welcome. Thank you, Let's Salta. And yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to say. It's really hard. It's very hard to talk about the way that we're affected by capitalism without immediately alienating people, crazy freeloading hippie socialist. The next stream that I'm going to do is going to talk a lot about the problem with normalcy, how important it is for people to understand how things are and what the rules are and how to survive under the rules that we have. And we're very good at understanding rules, much better at it than we are at more creative thinking about the way that things should be or different ways that they could be. We know how they are, and we, as a matter of survival, need to live in certain ways to function. I'm already a little lost, so we're not going to go into it. That'll be for next time. But the reason I'm talking about all of these things, the importance of feeling emotions and learning how to deal with them appropriately, and the way that we're taught to think about them, and the way that we view the value of people, is we are born knowing that we are valuable, and it is our work to make sure that that is not unlearned, especially in the young boys who grow up to become self-hating, outwardly violent, uncaring and unconnected towards other people, and looking for ways to build their value. A person who knows that they are inherently valuable will not look for ways to increase that value by hurting others. And that is why I think it is important to talk about masculinity in particular and its connection to violence in the US. Yeah. So that's all I got. Thanks for listening. Any questions? I don't think materialism is human nature. I think that is something that we are taught or allowed to think based on our upbringing. Yeah, absolutely. There is an unlearning of human value that's replaced with valuing other things instead. The need for connection and an affirmation, the need to have your experiences confirmed is replaced by the desire for connection can be replaced with the desire for material things. If if your needs are not being satisfied, then you will keep needing other things, and you will be trying to find things that make you feel that your value has become acceptable. And then you're going to be frustrated when other people don't respond the way you want to your increasing value. And that has to go somewhere. You can't decide that your emotions are inconvenient and you're not going to feel them because you have more important work to do of making money or whatever it is. Getting laid, I don't know, getting pretty, putting on more makeup. Yeah. You can't increase your value, you just have it. So I'm trying to say more, but I already said everything. I guess that's it. Thank you for watching. I think I'll go ahead and end it here and come back to you tomorrow with a new topic. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to us forever. I have to refill my content meter. I filled it up all day yesterday, and now it's just over the past hour and 15 minutes it's been going down as I let it out. But yeah, I'm going to export this and what I talked about on Tuesday to YouTube if you want to go back, or if you didn't get all of it. Yeah, I think when I do these talks, I try not to use some of the words and some of the language that I know causes knee-jerk reactions. I try not to say toxic masculinity or feminism or socialism, things that people have ideas about and negative feelings about before they really consider the ideas. Triggered, yeah. I don't remember what I was saying. I'm sorry. But I think these things are important to talk about. I guess I was going to say that at the heart of feminism is the what people don't understand about it when they hear Sky Blue and Black, thank you so much for 14 months.
Less than 3.
Love ya. What people don't understand when they hear that feminism is about equality between the sexes, it's not about, like sameness, that men and women are exactly the same, have to be treated exactly the same. It's about value. And there's a lot of misunderstanding because there are certain things that men are valued for that women see, and it's upsetting because they want to be valued for those things. And there are things that women are valued for that men see, and they are thinking, you're already so valuable to people, what more do you want? But what really needs to happen is for us not to be making the value judgments based on certain qualities. The judgment doesn't need to be made. The people are already valuable, and people don't feel that way about themselves. So, feminism is an issue of making men and women feel important, valuing themselves and seeing the value in each other. And that's why I talk about it, even though it annoys people. So thank you for listening. And sorry if I've bamboozled you with some leftist chatter. But I love you guys, and catch me next time. We'll have more talks. I love you. Goodbye.